What's up, gamers? Today I'm telling you why you're sleeping on regulars and why regulars are way better than I think people are giving them credit for. I've seen people, on subreddit or whatever, be like, "Oh, they seem rubbish," and they do seem rubbish. So why do they seem rubbish, and why are they actually way better? Well, I'm just going to walk into this fight, and before I walk into this fight, I just want to show you. Oh, they changed it. The game's changed its mind. Well, before I went in here, it was like, "Oh, you're definitely going to lose," but now it's saying I'm going to win, and it's right. The game's right. I am going to win. Our army has better quality than theirs. Yes, we do. I've just realised I haven't done my formation, so I just want to check that I haven't. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. So why am I going to win, even though I'm currently being outnumbered? Not massively, but they've got 10,000 to just under 7,000. It's a pretty convincing size benefit. So why do I think I'm going to win? Well, if you have a look at a levy, you can see a levy. You can have 1,000 men in a levy. Which is pretty good, but compared that to my guys you can only have 200 in a regiment. So, and all the other battle stats are pretty similar, right? Some of the things are a bit different. I think these guys are a bit faster, and these guys are a bit slower, but they do some extra morale damage. Blah blah blah. Who really cares? Well, that stuff doesn't really matter. The strength seems pretty important. But there are actually a few things that mean that on paper, actually these guys are not as bad as they might look. So the first thing is levies get monthly experience decay 2% and discipline minus 10%. So discipline is quite important. At this stage of the game, you see Brittany's got 15%, I've got 18%. So losing 10% of that, going from 15 down to 5, is quite a big change. And discipline's very good. So discipline gives you extra damage. So you can see here they've only got 5. They're only getting plus 5%, 5.9% damage, when they should be getting plus 15.9% damage because they're losing minus 10% discipline for being a levy. Whereas my regulars don't have any such debuff, so I'm getting the full benefit of all my discipline. So that's good. The next thing is that all of my regulars have accrued some experience. So because levies lose experience very quickly, you tend not to have very high experience numbers. And the other thing about experience is that levies can't accumulate experience outside of war. Whereas with regulars, you can drill them. When you're at peace, you can just drill them, and that gives them a lot of experience. And so you can build up a high amount of experience in times of peace, and then when you declare war, you can start fighting with high experience. And the experience is very good because every 1 point of experience gives you a 0.5% damage reduction. So if you manage to get to 100% experience, you'd have a 50% damage reduction, which is pretty nuts. You can see, I've only got 30% because I've been fighting, and the troops have been dying, and they've been coming back, and I've been moving around and not just like standing there drilling. But some of my regiments have got quite high experience. So that's another kind of benefit of regulars, is that they get a big buff to their defense from experience. They get a buff to their damage and defense from the full effect of their discipline. And finally, you can see here, you get a massive bonus when you're fighting against a levy. Regulars do way more damage to levies. So even though I've only got 200 guys in a single regiment, 200 regulars fighting 1,000 levies actually comes out to be not that bad, just because they get less discipline and they don't get experience, and I'm doing 250% more damage to them. So all of those things, in my experience, add up to about equal. It's roughly equal in terms of like damage output. You see here we've got quite bad rolls on both sides. So all the troops, all the units are kind of killing killing a few. The cavalry's quite strong. Cavalry's very good, so they tend to do a lot of damage. So you see here, it's like 2 to 4, and it's probably going to be something similar on there. Yeah, 2, 1, 1, 1, 0. You can see in terms of the kills, it's all fairly similar across the board. There's a few kills apiece and between every regiment. So that seems to all be fine. So why is it then that if I'm saying I'm going to win this because I've got regulars, why? Well, the answer to that is frontage. So the nice thing about regulars is that you can spread your troops across the full frontage. So you get every section, you get 10 frontage. This is kind of defaults for every location. Like swamps and things, I think reduce this a bit. And I think later in the game this might go up with tech and stuff like that. But we're in the age of discovery, and so far it's been 10. All the battles before have been 10 frontage. And that's per section, so there are 3 sections, and you can have 10 frontage, and every land unit seems to have 1. I think naval units it's a bit different, but for land, every unit has 1 frontage. So we can deploy 10 units on this flank, 10 units in the centre flank, and 10 units on the left flank. And because regulars kind of only have 200 troops, it's actually not that crazy. You don't need that much manpower to fill your full front. And so I've got this 7,000 army. I've got in it enough infantry and cavalry to fully fill all my frontage. Whereas if you have a look at the other army, they do have the ability to fill all of their frontage, but that's because a bunch of these regiments are not consolidated down. You can look at this levy's only got 10 guys in it. This has only got 44. That's a full strength one. This has only got 43. This has only got 309. So 10,000 levies, if we ignore, they do have some units of regulars in here, but mostly, if I run my mouse across it, you can see most of those are the wooden shields, and then there are only a few of the gold shields for regulars. If we just ignore the regulars, 10,000 levies divided by 1,000 strength per unit is only 10 units. That's only 10 frontage. So right now, they can only present 10 full strength frontage, if that makes sense. Whereas I can present, 6,000 is the magic number for regulars. If it's 200 per unit, times 10 frontage in a flank, that's 2,000 men, and then times 3 sections is 6,000 men. So because I have more than 6,000 men, I have the ability to put a fully strength 30 frontage out on the pitch, or out on the battlefield, whereas they don't. They have the frontage, but they don't have it at full strength, right? They're deploying 250 levies. If they consolidated down all of their levies into fully strength regiments, they wouldn't be able to deploy 10 regiments on every flank. So as I let this battle play, the game knows I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win, even though I'm massively outnumbered, or quite heavily outnumbered. It's just because they're not fighting with full effectiveness, right? They're only fighting, this levy unit is only a quarter effective. So I'm just going to let the battle play out, and you can see for yourself that you look at these damage numbers coming out, and that's a good roll, but I'm doing took 12 losses, dealing 77. It's pretty damning ratio there of losses. We can just keep watching. And one other thing I'll mention as well while we're watching this battle go through is that regulars, one hidden buff, I don't know if this is a bug or there's like a good reason for this and I'm just not understanding, but it seems to me that regulars just fight to the death. You can see here I've got no retreats. These horses, they fought till they died, till there was no one left. And you can see, we've won both the side flanks, and now we're getting a massive flanking bonus, so we do a lot of damage. But you can see levies start to run. You see some of these levies, like 300 levies ran away, 300 levies ran away. And we've killed a lot of troops, but also we've routed some. And one thing I've really noticed with the levies, with the regulars, is that they just don't run; they just fight to the death. So that's pretty good because it means that you're not losing combat effectiveness because your guys just drop their weapons and ran away. Cool. So we can kind of watch the end of this battle. You can look at that devastating 4 losses for me and 117 for them because we're getting all this cavalry on the flank is doing insane. Okay, maybe not. That guy's not doing insane. That guy's doing a lot of damage though. 200 damn. And yeah, at the end of the battle, we killed a huge amount, but we've routed loads, whereas we've lost 1,000, but we've had 0 retreats. Every single man has stood and fought. And there you go. That's quite a convincing victory there. It was a very convincing victory, considering that I was outnumbered. They had more troops, but mine were way better quality, so we just absolutely crushed. And I've noticed that I'm able to consistently win even 2-to-1 odds quite comfortably. Like this, 6,000. So I've lost some troops now. I've just lost about 1,000. So this is normally about 6,000 something. Even with this 6,000 army, I can quite convincingly walk around, take on 10k stacks, 11k stacks, 12k stacks of levies, and it's not a problem. Hello, it's Future Me here, just throwing in a few more examples of battles that I fought, just to kind of further prove that I'm not just, that wasn't lucky or a one-off. Here's a good one. You can see it is very likely that our side will lose. So that's me walking into the battle, and then at the end of the battle, you can see that I did not lose. Actually, I won quite convincingly. So there you go. And then one final point is that those levies, they don't come back. Levies don't replenish very quickly. They slowly come back into your levy pool, and then you have to re-raise them. So Brittany is going to have to go away, and then they're going to have to wait for months, and then they might be able to get like 100 here, and like 100 here, a couple hundred over here, and then they have to march them all the way back together, and then join them all up, and that's how they're going to get their fighting force back again. But one massive buff for the regulars is regulars replenish really quickly. It's kind of crazy. It seems very strong to me, but you get 25%. Every regiment recovers 25% per month. So as long as you're in friendly territory on the first of the month, you will get, every single regiment gets 25%. That means in 4 months, you can go from everybody is dead to you're a full, complete army like nothing ever happened. Which is pretty crazy compared to levies. The levies are going to take a very long time. And then there are a couple other points to talk about. You can get armories quite early, so you need armories. So you come to Age of Renaissance. It's under professional armies, and then under organised recruitment, drill army, armory, and then you can spam out armory buildings. That gives you a lot of manpower, and manpower lets you recruit armies. The cost of your army is a little bit high, so you can see here my army maintenance is about 30 ducats. It's quite a big army, and then I'm also paying an extra 13 ducats now because I'm reinforcing. So the reinforcements do cost a bit of money. And hidden as well in our buildings cost, you can see our armories are also taking quite a lot. Armories are expensive. You can see we're buying 2 units of firearms is quite expensive. 2 units of leather is quite expensive. 2 weaponry is quite expensive. So I'd recommend, if you are going to be building a big army, you really, 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 really want to make sure you're driving down the cost of weaponry. You're building weaponry manufacturers and firearm manufacturers and leather manufacturers. You're building the buildings that produce these goods, and you're driving down the costs, because otherwise it's it's quite an expensive endeavour to be keeping these armories up and running. But even so, even having said that, it's 26 ducats plus 30 ducats, so we're like 56 ducats. So it's a little bit over than like 10% of my income. It's going to maintain a fully professional standing army that is more than capable of destroying double its number of levies. And the other benefit, although it's costing me a lot of money, it's actually saving me money in a way as well, because I'm not having to raise levies. When you raise levies, 20% raw materials output, 20% food production. I mean, that's quite harsh, right? That's going to drive up all of your input goods. All your raw goods are going to get more expensive, and that means all your workshops are going to get less. You're making less money because the input materials have gone up in price, so the profit goes down. Your population growth slows down because you've got less food. Raising a lot of levies kind of tanks your economy for a bit, so not having to raise those levies is saving my economy. So I'm spending money, but I'm also saving money. Yep. So that's that. And then one other thing to talk about is you can see here, I've only just now, in 1442, got to the point where I can raise 30,000 levies. And 30,000 is the magic number I mentioned earlier, where you can fully fill all 30 frontage with levies. So when you're in the start of the game, when you're earlier in the game, if you're in like 1350 or something, or 1360, I don't know, when you can start building armories, it's a really good idea to start supplementing your armies with regulars, because that will let you expand your frontage. You'll fill your frontage. Because when if you can only raise 10,000 levies, that's only 10 frontage you can present. Whereas if you raise 10,000 levies and you have 2,000 infantry troops, then you've doubled your frontage. Even though you went from 10,000 to 12,000, you went from 10 frontage to 10 frontage to 20 frontage. You've doubled your frontage. So that's why regulars are really, really good in the early game to mix in with your levies, and eventually you can replace your levies entirely. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about, just a little bonus tip, is if you come here, you want to recruit some regulars. By the way, this expected army is just a number. I don't really know what the formula is, how it decides that this is the number it's going to be, but you can just ignore this completely. It doesn't matter at all. It has no impact on anything. You don't get any penalties for going over it, and you don't get any penalties for being under it, as far as I can tell. But the final thing I want to talk about, let's say I decide I want some more men-at-arms. You can see up here, I have 3 buttons. So normally it defaults to this button, which is normal recruitment, fine. You can come here and you get rushed recruitment. I don't know why you would ever want this. This just seems really bad, because it only takes 25% of the time, but you only get 25% of the troops, and it still costs the same amount of money. I don't get any discount for doing this, but then I have to pay the maintenance cost, to the reinforcement cost to reinforce from 25% up to 100%. And already discussed, it's costing you money, and you only recover 25% per month, so it would take 3 months. So instead of, I think, recruiting 1 unit, you can see here it's 26 days, so it's like about 1 month. Whereas if I did this, it only takes me a week, but I then have to wait 3 months to get my 3 ticks of reinforcement to get back. So I don't understand why you'd ever want rush recruitment, it just seems really bad. But on the other hand, you should always click additional, I think, because you get, so it costs the same, you get your normal regiment, it takes longer, so that your time, you have to wait longer, but you get 20 experience out the gate, and given that the base is, what, 26 days, and we're going up to 40 days, so we've added 14 days, so we've added 2 weeks of game time, which is, it's not that much, it's pretty small, all things considered, but we're getting 20 experience, that's quite nice, because that means that you can put them in combat straight away, and that's a 10% damage debuff, or if you don't want to put them in combat straight away, you just have a higher number to start at, so when you start drilling, you get a lot more maintenance. Okay, I think that is everything I wanted to talk about, so bye.